Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange, or ADX, is one of the world's fastest-growing securities exchanges with a market capitalization of more than $765 billion. Now, as the largest capital market in the United Arab Emirates and the second largest market in the Arab region, ADX is home to big blue chips such as Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, ADNOC Distribution, ADNOC Drilling, ADNOC Gas, the list goes on. And while the energy sector features predominantly on that list, ADX has made firm commitments to drive sustainability in financial markets. In fact, the exchange says all of its listed companies, or listcos, issue sustainability reports. This is the Eco-Business podcast. I'm Rachel Kelly. And today we're going to sit down with Matthias Buchler, who is the Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer at ADX, to discuss sustainability as a key pillar of growth for the exchange and the role COP28 might have played in shaping the ESG investment narrative in the region. Matthias, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
So today we're going to be talking about ADX and sustainability. And sustainability is a very broad term. It can mean many things to many people. Obviously, in today's context, we're talking about the ESG element when it comes to sustainability. So in that sense, I'd like to start off by asking you, what does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability for us at ADX is a core pillar of what we do and the direction we're moving to. So we are a very important member of the Abu Dhabi financial ecosystem as the exchange. And we have really embedded ESG in our strategy, but also in our day-to-day operations. It's important to note that we as an exchange here at Abu Dhabi have also regulatory function when it comes to ESG. So we actually inform and enforce the reporting standards and requirements for the listed companies that we have here. So we are around 3 trillion dirhams. Put this in perspective, that puts us as the 20 largest exchange in the world. And we have a number of very large blue chip companies that are listed here with us.
So as you mentioned, sustainability plays an important role. And from your perspective and your role, how does that integrate with your strategy as an exchange, given your size and the types of listings that you have in Abu Dhabi?
Thanks. It's a great question. I mean, first and foremost, an exchange is a platform, and we bring together different market participants who have various needs across the capital markets. What is then our role and how do we embed it? First, we need to be part of the ecosystem and we need to talk with one voice. So because ESG wouldn't work if everybody does their own thing. So we have a very strong view and commitment to cooperation. So what do we do along these lines? So first, we are actually an active member in the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative, where we are participating and also implementing their outcomes. Secondly, we are part of something which might be not this well known. There is the GCC Exchange Committee. And we are a part of this committee together with the colleagues from the other exchanges. And we have established a unified set of ESG disclosure metrics for companies listed in the GCC. So these metrics, there are 29 standards, are aligned with the World Federation of Exchanges as well as the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative. And I think this is extremely important because what you ultimately want is familiarity, particularly as we have had a number of very large IPOs in the last year and this year. This attracts international investors, and particularly international investors want to be familiar with the ESG language standards, etc. So therefore, corporation adoption of international best practices is absolutely crucial for us.
How would you describe the attitude towards sustainability for listcos and corporates in the region?
For Abu Dhabi specifically, the leadership and the government has taken a very strong position on ESG and its importance. I think that has also been reflected in the fact around COP28 and the support that the Abu Dhabi-based companies have given to COP28. So there is already, the tone is set at the top. And through this very clear commitment, you can then see that we as the regulator are adopting this commitment, are in talking to the listed companies and encouraging them to adopt it. Now, the good news is that the listed companies themselves are very proactive when it comes to ESG adoption and ESG reporting. As in any exchange, there is obviously a slight difference between the capacity and the capability of the organization. So not everybody has fully fledged out dedicated ESG teams as the larger companies will have. But we are very happy to say that as of today, all our listed companies, regardless their size, their industry, their business model, are actually issuing ESG reports as per our standard.
Okay, so just to repeat, Matthias, when we're looking at the proportion of ADX listcos that currently issue sustainability reports, you said all are?
Yes, all our companies are issuing ESG reports as per our standards. When you ask about evolvement, which is a great question, where are we heading to? Obviously, the standards, as I mentioned before, together with the GCC exchange, is 29 standards in terms of disclosure. Over time, this will evolve, meaning the standards and the requirements will broaden as well as deepen of ESG reporting over time. So we took an approach where we said, this is the bare minimum we expect, and everybody has to comply. And then from there on, we will build.
And then what kind of training do you conduct or provide to help the listcos improve their ESG, their sustainability reporting standards?
So it is very important that we are listening to all market participants. The listed companies obviously being a core of them. We also actively listen to what are the requirements of the investors, be it local, be it retail, institutional, other market participants, so that we actually can come up with the best option that serves the whole market ecosystem. What we actively provide to our listed companies specifically is we give regular updates on where we're heading in terms of regulation requirements. We have roundtables with them. We bring industry experts in, and we also have a lot of discussions with some of our members around the benefits in terms of green capital and what impact it can have for their cost of fund or cost of capital.
From your perspective then, when it comes to sustainability reporting, the listcos are already on board. And you mentioned that obviously international investors have shone a spotlight when it comes to sustainability, and it's something that they're very keenly, closely watching. What about the local investor market? What kind of conversations are you having on that? Is there demand for sustainable products? Would you say that the value when it comes to sustainability reporting is fully recognized and appreciated?
I can answer it in two ways. One is when it comes to listed companies, to cash equities, as an emerging market, there's a lot of education we have to do. So to create awareness among the investors that, yes, the disclosures exist, what they consist of, where to find it, what is the meaning, what's the so what. So we have a very active role in investor education. And I would say as a market, we are at the nascent stage. But we have seen increasingly demand on our website and publications in terms of active reading, downloads. We also have a webcast with our listed companies around where we're interviewing the CFOs or the chief sustainability officer. And we have seen great pickup by the retail proportion of the market around these educational and awareness initiatives.
Do you think COP28 moved the needle there?
I would say COP28 not only moved the needle, COP28 certainly was an absolute game changer, both locally as well as internationally. We can clearly see that it has massively accelerated and propelled the ESG adoption and support here in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE.
Moving on from equities now, I wanted to talk to you about green debt instruments, because ADX, you've got a number of green debt instruments. Can you talk to me about how these have also been received by the market?
Yes. So green debt instruments has been a tremendous success story here at ADX. And let me be specific why it was a success story, and I can substantiate it with numbers. So we have a total of 7 green debt instruments where we have dollar nominated as well as dirham denominated bonds. The dollar is around 9 billion and dirhams around 2 billion dirhams. And to highlight a few of the key flagstone transactions we did, we had Mubadala with the green bond that was oversubscribed 9 times, both locally as well as internationally. Adib launched a $500 million green senior sukuk, again, 5 times oversubscribed. And we also had a dirham-dominated green sukuk issued by the First Abu Dhabi Bank, and as well as green bonds by Aldar Properties. So all of these bonds have been massively oversubscribed, both nationally as internationally mentioned. And I think it just shows a number of things. Number one, there's a real demand from retail, institutional, local, as well as international investors for these instruments. Secondly there is a significant amount of trust in ADX and the fact that when we bring something to the market, that it is a real green instrument and it meets the reporting requirement, meets the regulatory requirements, and therefore it's a good investment at the end of the day from an ESG point of view.
So we've spoken about equities, we've spoken about debt. What else have you got in the pipeline when it comes to sustainability?
So our pipeline is a continuous evolution of where we are today. Mm-hmm. So where do we want to further build? We want to build in a number of areas. First and foremost, increase the reporting requirements that is relevant to the market participants. Secondly is, as I mentioned earlier, we want to continuously drive education of the retail sector as well as the international investor. What is ESG at ADX? What does it mean? What does it consist of? Because education comes absolutely first in order to drive adoption. Furthermore, we are positive to see more green debt instruments coming online. And all this together shows that ESG for us is not a trend. It is a long-term commitment. And I would say ESG here in the UAE is to stay. And it has become a relevant investment decision criteria. You recently also launched the FTSE ADX ESG Screened Index. That was in November 2023, so just ahead of COP28. How has the index been received by the investment community here? Yes, so it was actually in November 2023 that we launched the FTSE ESG Screened Index together with FTSE Russell. Mm-hmm. So what does it do? It tracks the ESG performance of 24 of our listed companies. And it allows investors to understand how these companies actually are performing against the ESG criteria. The pickup and the response has been very positive by investors so far. They see it as a critical tool for measuring and understanding the relative ESG performance.
So why did you launch it? What was the need?
The underlying need was very straightforward. It is the demand of the investors. The investors want to know how a company is doing in the ESG front. Now, FTSE Russell is a internationally recognized brand name, and we made sure that 24 companies that are the most relevant to this are included. So it actually gives transparency. It gives comparability, and it also gives reassurance of the accurateness of our reporting.
Would you say sustainability perhaps is one of the key drivers when it comes to investment in the region?
What we see is that ESG has become a key driver for investment in the region and in a number of areas. So today, if we go through an IPO with a company, the ESG discussion happens right at that stage already. It's not something that comes post-listing. Already at the pre-listing, listing stage, we inform this is the ESG requirement. Companies are very actively adopting it at the start, but they're also using it in the book building phase to give their equity story, including the ESG aspect, to the investor community.
If you were to look 10 years down the line, what do you think ADX would look like and how would sustainability have shaped that?
In a 10 years time, as a hypothetical time frame, I would say that you will have a much higher standardization of ESG reporting, of ESG disclosure. Today, across the capital markets on an international basis, I would say there are too many standards, views, approaches. So you will see fewer that are more consistent, and ADX will be part of that journey and will be one of the early adopters of a standardized framework, as well as our listed companies will be very proactive in moving into an international standard reporting framework.
When it comes to sustainability reporting and standards, for your listcos, when they are, putting together their sustainability reports, what are some of the key challenges and how are you helping them to overcome those?
So some of the key challenges is obviously gathering the data, normalizing the data, understanding what do we need to report, how does it need to report, how do I comply with all the different standards, particularly when they go outside to international roadshows. So where we try to help them is to have a set of standards that are very, very clear, that cover some of the key international standards as well, to give them a very sound base for ESG reporting and disclosure.
Wonderful. Well, Matthias, that's more than enough. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Rice.
I'm Rachel Kelly, and